guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Clyde, and today's video I'm going to talk to you about the upcoming crypto ETNs that's going to be available in Trading 212. So here's my portfolio right now. I'm up 86% since I bought it in June last year. I bought Strategy in June, and my average price is $178. So I made a post in a Bitcoin forum 3 days ago talking about the upcoming ETNs. ETNs are not the same as holding Bitcoin. I noticed Trading 212 is going to offer crypto ETNs. On the surface, this looks like a win for Bitcoin exposure, but it's not the same as holding Bitcoin in cold storage. So a cold storage is when you hold Bitcoin, in this case, outside the connection of the internet, and you can achieve this by getting yourself a hardware wallet like Blockstream Jade. So what are the key reasons why people would buy into this Bitcoin ETNs? It's an entry point for the curious. I see this mainly benefiting people who never really looked into Bitcoin before. It's like a tip of an iceberg, small and convenient way to get exposure, but what lies beneath the Bitcoin ethos is much bigger and far more powerful. So there's a thing where once you buy into an asset, it sticks with you all day, all week, and all months. You won't just set it and forget it. Oftentimes, you're going to do your own research even further down the rabbit hole. In this case, once you get access to a Bitcoin ETN, you're going to be looking more into the ethos and what it really means to hold this asset. It's more than just numbers go up technology. I'll tell you that right now. Another reason why people would get into this Bitcoin ETN is for the tax wrappers and short-term holders. The only real advantage I see here is that these ETNs could possibly be wrapped in an ISA, which means taking Bitcoin profits tax-free. That's appealing for traders or those who want to hold Bitcoin short-term. For me, one of the reasons I went into MSTR originally was because it is the closest thing to a Bitcoin stock and it fit inside an ISA, giving me a tax-free way to align my wealth with Bitcoin's performance. So many people buy into MSTR because it moves like Bitcoin, and since Bitcoin is not available to hold in an ISA, Strategy has been the closest thing to doing that. Volatility versus exposure. If you think MSTR's volatility is too extreme or worry it's decoupling from Bitcoin's price action, then a Bitcoin ETN might look like a safer option. But don't confuse that with actually owning Bitcoin. You can't send a Bitcoin ETN to a cold storage wallet. A cold wallet is not connected to the internet. You are self-custodying the Bitcoin. When you hold Bitcoin ETN here in Trading 212, you are dependent on Trading 212 to not freeze your account. And there's countless times where people have gotten their bank account frozen or their investment held. So if you're afraid that Trading 212 may not honor your investments, holding Bitcoin through a cold storage is far superior because you have full control and you don't have to worry about getting your Bitcoin locked up. So long as you remember your 24 seed phrase is basically a password for those who don't know. A cold storage is still king. At the end of the day, ETNs are IOUs. You're trusting a middleman in a regulated system that can freeze your wealth. With the recent UK news on digital ID and even people getting arrested over their social media posts, do you really want to keep your savings in a system where authorities can switch off your access? That's why Bitcoin in cold storage is far superior. No counterparty, no permission needed, and no risk of your wealth being frozen because of what you said or believe in. So this is what it wrote in the homepage. Unlock access to crypto ETNs. Crypto ETNs are coming to our platform on October 8th. So in just a couple days time. I got 16 likes from that, and here are some of the comments people wrote. Potato Head said, so a cold storage wallet is the answer for when they come to get you, although you'll still need access to an exchange, of course. The fees of Bitcoin are extraordinary and the capital gains is horrendous. For the average person, anything regulated under an ISA is the best investment approach in my opinion, not financial advice. And this is what I wrote. I hear you, an ISA is definitely convenient for most people in the UK, but in countries facing hyperinflation or frozen bank accounts, Bitcoin has been the solution, not regulated products. And on capital gains, you only really need to face that if you sell back into Great British pounds. Since Bitcoin itself is money, and if your local vendors accepts it, then you can transact peer-to-peer without ever cashing out and paying capital gains is what I meant. He responded, unfortunately capital gains is faced as soon as you realize the gain. Thus, if you buy a car, Bitcoin, the equivalent value in Great British pounds, is considered as the basis for the gain. I think it's more about not being noticed than there being a loophole, to be honest. Good point regarding other countries. There is no ISA in those cases and often no access to currency. Although it's also difficult to buy Bitcoin in those countries because nobody wants to swap crappy currencies for Bitcoin or it's illegal. For example, Nigeria makes it really tough to transact in anything other than Naira. To buy Bitcoin, you'd need someone happy to sell you Bitcoin in return for Naira. I do have experience with sending money to people in Nigeria, as I do have editors working for me, and I send them in crypto pretty much. When it comes to small purchases like a coffee, this is what I said. Small businesses aren't enforcing capital gains on Bitcoin, so spending Bitcoin works like paying in cash. It's disposable and up for the individual to report it. What I'm trying to say here is, you don't really pay any capital gains tax when you trade in Bitcoin peer-to-peer. And this is what Potato Head wasn't really addressing. And I added, as for countries like Nigeria, people still access Bitcoin through peer-to-peer apps like Binance P2P or Remintano, and freelancers or businesses often get paid in Bitcoin or USDT from abroad. That's me. That's me sending crypto to my editors in Nigeria. I don't necessarily send it in Bitcoin, I use Litecoin simply because it's very low fees and it's much more quick than Lightning Network. They have to input the exact amount and it's time consuming if I try to do that. Anyways, I added, that inflow is liquidity for the country so Bitcoin can continue to circulate. There will always be someone willing to buy Naira for Bitcoin because they need Naira to pay for everyday expenses. Why would you sell Bitcoin, perfect money, back for fiat trash? Someone replied to Potato Head. And I added, Sailor said it, you do not sell your Bitcoin. You can simply buy goods and services with Bitcoin within its blockchain. And feel free to read here, talking about security-backed loans on Bitcoin. Oh yeah, here's an important part. Phantom Circle replied to Potato Head, you exchange worthless fiat for perfect money. It isn't about pumping anything up. I'm talking about Bitcoin, not crypto. Potato Head asked, Bitcoin isn't cryptocurrency? And I replied, sometimes people mistaken Bitcoin like every other cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin is nothing like altcoins, meme coins, stable coins, and CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. Bitcoin is the complete opposite of that. So Platinum Circle understands. Another person commented, great post, good to keep people informed. Platinum Circle also said, paper Bitcoin equals trash, not your keys, not your coins. That's a very popular term in a Bitcoin space. You gotta own the real thing. Bitcoin in cold storage. Humbleway said, yes, agree that the government can freeze assets. It can happen. Exactly, just take a look at Lebanon. The government frozen their people's bank accounts. They weren't able to pay for everyday groceries, fuel, and pay for rent. They absolutely stole from their own people. And the same thing happened in 2022 when the Canadian truckers protested and many of those protesters had their bank accounts frozen by the government. And a Canadian government also worked with crowdfunding websites where they also froze the truckers' donations. So Bitcoin is truly the way for freedom. So the more bullshit the government does to their own people, the more capital will flow into Bitcoin. Because Bitcoin does not discriminate a single person in this world. It's the only true money for the people. And here are some person, oh, this is interesting. One person said, if digital ID can stop you trading or freeze your bank account, what makes you think you'll be able to access the internet? I replied, the internet isn't owned by governments. It's decentralized like Bitcoin. Some countries restrict access like North Korea, but they can't shut it down worldwide. People still use VPNs to get around things, same way Bitcoin keeps working peer-to-peer in cold storage. Someone added, you actually don't need the internet to transact Bitcoin. It can be transacted through satellites and radio waves. And that's true, although I never really tried that myself, but it might be important to know. It's like learning how to camp and knowing how to light a fire. Some people just don't know how to light a fire because they don't need to. They already have a lighter themselves. So knowing how to send Bitcoin through satellites or radio waves might be something Bitcoiners should try to understand. Someone added, you just need someone else to redeem your keys if, for example, you are politically targeted and they try to freeze your bank accounts, but you had some crypto easily just transferred to a new wallet by seed phase redemption. So what he meant by that is, if you have your bank accounts frozen, you can just open up your cold wallet and redeem your seed phase, your password. As long as you remember your Bitcoin password, you can have access to your Bitcoin to sound money. And here's a comment I wrote, if you hold Bitcoin ETN on Trading 212, you will not be able to transfer Bitcoin to another address. It's just a financial product tracking the price. And for anyone curious about what ISA-based Bitcoin exposure can look like, this video goes over 1 year of holding MSTR stock, the gains, the risks compared to real estate, and why Bitcoin itself remains the true long-term strategy. I'll link this video in the description or in the comments for those who's interested in seeing this. And lastly, this person commented, lol, Bitcoin ETN, if physically backed, is exactly the same as holding Bitcoin on any other brokers such as Coinbase or whatever. But lying to yourself that MSTR is closest thing to Bitcoin is a wild statement, ha 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 ha, because it's nothing like Bitcoin. He got cooked here. I replied, holding Bitcoin ETNs is not the same as holding Bitcoin on exchanges. With an ETN, you can't send Bitcoin across wallets, it just tracks the price. And when it comes to tracking Bitcoin's price action, MSTR has done exactly that over the past 5 years since adopting Bitcoin. Short-term volatility is noise. Zoom out and the alignment between MSTR and Bitcoin becomes clear. 4 upvotes, and still he wasn't getting it. No shit, Sherlock, you can't send Bitcoin across wallets. Clue is in the name of the Bitcoin ETN. Then why did he say it's the same as holding Bitcoin in any other broker? MSTR, they develop a software. Just because they hold large position of Bitcoin doesn't make them closest thing to Bitcoin. You can buy. Lol, ha 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 ha. So if holding Bitcoin ETN isn't the same as holding Bitcoin in MSTR, then what the F is it? Magic potion? He's trying to be smart here, but he's clearly not understanding what he's talking about. I replied, but that's exactly the point. The reason MSTR trades like Bitcoin is because they hold a massive position in Bitcoin. If they didn't, their stock would just reflect their software business. It's not that MSTR is Bitcoin. It's that their balance sheet has effectively turned the stock into a leveraged proxy for Bitcoin's price. That's why in a market like the UK, where you don't have a spot ETFs in ISAs, MSTR has been the closest alternative. Someone added, Does MicroStrategy have a contingency plan to buy altcoins when the price of Bitcoin dips, or do they just sell and rebuy? And I pretty much gave him the playbook of strategy. Never sell their Bitcoin. They'll buy more Bitcoin by issuing ATM from their common stock and preferred stocks. And when Bitcoin dips, they'll increase the yield for their preferred stocks to drive more fixed income investors and use their capital to buy more Bitcoin. Strategy's common stock MSTR will continue to get ATM'd as long as their MNAV is above 1. As for altcoins, there is no second best. Now, I may have spoken like an alien here for those who does not understand what Strategy's business model is. But regardless, everything here is true. And he added, seems like insanity that they don't diversify a little, especially with staking rewards on other coins. Staking rewards is such a altcoin terminology, especially like Ethereum. So I said, staking rewards aren't free money. They just inflate the supply and concentrate control in the biggest holders. It's basically like a centralized bank handing out yield, which also means transactions can be censored if validators want to. That's why Saylor sticks with Bitcoin. Proof of work keeps it truly neutral and decentralized. So if you didn't know, concentrated control in the biggest holders. Did you know XRP and Ethereum, the more you hold those coins, the more control you have over the network, which is bad because it becomes no different to a centralized bank who can pretty much cancel your transactions when they find out who you are. That's the problem I have with these altcoins, proof of stake coins like Ethereum. They are not truly decentralized, they are not money for the people. So what do you guys think of this upcoming crypto ETNs? I'm personally excited for it because I know it's going to drive more traffic into the Bitcoin space. Like, forget Ethereum, forget all these altcoins, just focus on Bitcoin because nobody has ever lost money holding Bitcoin for more than 4 years. If you learned something of value, I'd appreciate you leave a like and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this.